Welcome back. Of the four puzzle pieces I refer to in this series, I believe healthy self-esteem is the most important because if you don't have that, it's hard to claim the other three: peace of mind, trust in your intuition, and allowing for spiritual curiosity. So, why is self-esteem such a problem for so many of us, and women in particular? I think it's influenced by so many external pressures that are so deeply embedded in what it means to be a person in a marriage, a family, a workplace, and a society. As little children, we learn to treat ourselves the way our caregivers treat us, absorbing their perceptions as our own. If your main caregiver always acted disgusted when changing your diaper, you learn that parts of you are gross. If, like me, you had a mother who was impatient with illness, you learn to be angry at yourself when you need rest and recovery. Self-care is hard. You become dismissive of your own needs. Of course, youth is a roller coaster of positive and negative emotions, but if we can connect with the core value we have, we can right ourselves even after the worst emotional disasters. The problem then is that we go to school where we are indoctrinated by the notion that our performance is the most important measure of our value. Behave, do your homework, get good grades. You're literally graded on what you do. Your value becomes inextricable from your actions. Your value is equal to how well you perform a task that other people have designed. Back in the day, God forbid you're dyslexic or not an auditory learner, or if you're the kind of kid who learns with your hands, not with your eyes. Fortunately, schools have caught up with the different ways children learn these days, but still, we're graded in a pass-fail system. You can literally be labeled a failure if you don't meet certain standards. Teenage years, young adulthood, figuring out who we are, that's all unconscious subjective development and expression, while the world is holding us to a rational, objective standard. No wonder self-esteem is a challenge. Then, of course, it's not unusual to be ridiculed if you decide to do something unique. You're called weird or flaky, like me. Family members and teachers and bosses put you into a category, often unconsciously and sometimes even with your own best interest at heart, but one that nevertheless is already a defined expectation. Remember that Pygmalion effect study in 1968? Researchers gave intelligence tests to a whole class of kids, then randomly selected a few and told teachers that those students were, quote, intellectual bloomers, and they were expected to show significant intellectual growth in the year ahead. And at the end of the year, when all the kids were given the intelligence test again, those labeled gifted at the beginning of the year showed that the teacher's high expectations, which were communicated nonverbally, had had a positive impact. Because I was a little artsy kid who didn't do things or learn in a linear way like my brilliant older sister did, I was labeled the flaky one, the airhead, the one most likely to make irrational decisions, have weird friends, and I'm not kidding on this one, probably get high too. None of which I ever did. But I was expected to be the black sheep, so I unwittingly stepped into that role. I was the bad kid, and I wasn't really that bad. If expectations others have of us shape our reality, as we've seen that they do, imagine what our own internal expectations of ourselves do. All that soft, subjective stuff in your unconscious mind is true and false at the same time. If you're believing that you're the weird one, like I did, that's my experience and my perception. That's the truth. But at the same time, it isn't, because it isn't universally objectively true. None of my friends or their parents in those early years, nor my friends, colleagues, and clients in my adulthood ever thought of me as weird. Not a single one. My subjective truth doesn't match my objective reality. And I bring this up to remind you that not everything you believe about yourself is true. It's based on expectations and perceptions, some created so long ago that you've never experienced consciousness without them. And this is why our next video on intuition is so important. Because intuition is always true, but it has to compete not only with the rational voice of the conscious mind, which dismisses everything it can't see, hear, smell, touch, and taste, but also with the limiting beliefs, habits, imaginings, memories, and old perceptions residing right beside it in the unconscious mind. Knowing which voice to listen to is critical to getting what you want out of life, but we'll get to that in the next video. Now do whatever you can to start accepting yourself, because as we'll see in the video on spiritual curiosity, who you are is already perfect. Now, that doesn't mean you've made perfect decisions or done everything perfectly, but who you are as a consciousness, who you are as you, isn't flawed or deficient. There's nothing wrong with you. The very fact that you're alive means you've inherited the right to be here alive. You don't owe anyone an explanation or an apology or a rationale or defense for why you are you. You are here to be you, not to be anybody else, or to make anyone else comfortable, or to fit into anyone else's mold. It's time to stop valuing yourself solely on what you do or have done in the past or plan to do in the future. And it's time to recognize the value you have just by being a unique expression of life. You're here to be, not just to do. This is a huge paradigm shift, no lie. All our lives, value has been measured by our industry. I'm asking you to look at it differently. And one of the best ways to change your mind is to do what life does all on its own, and that is be additive instead of subtractive. So don't try to stop being hard on yourself. Don't try to eliminate self-punishing behaviors and negative self-talk. Because remember, the more we focus on something, the more it expands, even if it's a negative thing. Instead, add kind self-talk. Add a habit of recalling 5 things you're grateful for as you're falling asleep at night. Add celebrations when you succeed at something, even partially. In time, as you focus on what's life-affirming about your being, that well-being expands, and you have less and less reason to focus on what's wrong. Consider how you perceive yourself and the unmistakable importance of choosing to perceive good things. That will alter your natural mental habits and refocus your perceptions and expectations of prosperity and abundance and whatever you want in the future. And prepare for some resistance. People don't like change, not even when other people change, not even in our own self-regard. We'll talk about what that looks like in the next video on peace of mind. So come back. See you then.